From Fox 5 News, this is Good Day New York.
Remember a couple months ago when that pilot on JetBlue just lost it on the airplane?
He went on a rant.
Totally freaked out. The plane had taken off from JFK on its way to Vegas. And they're still trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Meanwhile, some of the passengers on that flight are suing JetBlue.
Yeah, 10 passengers. They said they experienced, in their words, a fear of imminent death. Michael Bedziner was a passenger on that plane, and his attorney, Steve Epstein, is with us this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Describe what it was like for you while you were going through that experience, Michael.
At first, it was actually very confusing because we didn't really understand what was going on. We just saw him run past us, and seemingly crazy. But then he turned around and ran to the front of the plane, going to the cockpit, and started slamming on the door and banging on it and shouting crazy things. And
did you hear what he was saying?
Snippets of it.
Like what? What did you hear?
Afghanistan, Iran. We thought we heard him say bomb. We weren't really sure, but then it passed through the passengers backwards saying, yeah, he did say that. So
we've heard some dramatic testimony from passengers on that flight. I want to ask you, though, what are you actually suing for? I mean, you ultimately made it to Las Vegas, safe and sound. Might have been troubling for a couple of minutes. I mean, really, what was the damage done, sir?
Greg, that's an excellent question. And the bottom line is we're hoping this never occurs again to other passengers aboard any other flight. All the passengers of Flight 191, 135 passengers, and every person who gets into an airplane today has lost trust that the airlines are going to get them there safely. What we know is this. We know Clayton Osborne was insane by his own admission when he flew that plane. The question we have for JetBlue and the airline industry is how is that allowed?
Mm-hmm. Michael, have you been able to get back on a plane? I mean, obviously, you made it back.
I had to, yeah. I had
to. And what's it been like for you when you get on a plane?
I guess the real feeling was that in the past when you would get on an airplane and you would look to your fellow passengers and say, you know, they're okay, and then you would look for assurances to the flight crew, and particularly the pilot. Now I'm getting on a plane and looking at the flight crew and the pilot as somebody to look out for. And that's frightening.
It was frightening. So are you saying that you've suffered emotionally as a result of what happened on that flight?
Oh, yes.
And how, tell me, like, how has that manifested itself? Other than when you get on, you look to the... You're still flying a lot, right?
Well, no, not a lot. We had to fly back.
But so you don't get on planes anymore as a result?
Then I have to because it's part of my job. You know.
Well, how much money are we suing
for? Greg, let's be clear here about the most important thing. We have 10 passengers that don't want this to occur again. We have 10 passengers that want change. The bottom line is JetBlue's answer of our head is in the sand and we weren't aware that he was insane at the time of this is not sufficient. The airline industry does very little oversight. It's one examination a year for somebody under the age of 40 without a significant psychological component.
Nobody wants this to happen again. I'm convinced of that. But how much are you suing for? Can you say?
Well, right now the discovery process is ongoing, so we're going to find out more information from JetBlue. We're suing not only for compensatory damages, but for punitive damages, so that JetBlue answers the call and makes sure this doesn't occur again.
So has JetBlue offered you anything since that flight, Michael?
No, not really. It was just the flight.
Wait, the flight home, or they reimbursed you?
The flight there and a round-trip ticket that would equal the value of that flight.
I mean, and you're grimacing, Mr. Epstein, like, what do you think should be offered or should have been offered?
What has to happen is change, Greg. There has to be a statement by JetBlue that they acknowledge that having an insane pilot flying a plane is not acceptable. They have to accept the reality that the current standards and the current oversight for pilots is not sufficient. Without going into the details with respect to what exact damages are, we want JetBlue to take responsibility, and the key thing is restore trust. There has to be trust so that passengers such as Michael, passengers that flew on that flight, can feel comfortable getting in without turning left and looking into the cockpit.
Michael seems to be doing fine. Are there any in the 10 who say, you know, can't even go outside or can't get on a plane?
Yes.
Tell us about them.
There are plaintiffs within our group that currently are seeing therapists. I know you had a piece on last night that are currently undergoing therapy. One of the things you have to realize is the psychological trauma that's caused by this is extensive. Michael, for example, was on the flight with his wife. They have an 18-year-old daughter. Passengers were on the plane texting their loved ones, not knowing that they were ever going to see them again. Michael, especially with his wife being on the plane, both of them are on the plane, and their daughter could have lost both parents that day. The fear of death is, and what occurs as a result of that is significant.
Does that play through your mind all the time?
Yeah, that is what really got me, because my daughter would have nobody at that point. So.
I could see being really traumatized. You're on a plane and there are people screaming on the plane, and after 9/11, sure, that could definitely have an impact.
And it's the captain. All of our clients' response and all of the passengers that we spoke to, what they couldn't believe is what was going on was actually the captain, who's supposed to be the person flying the plane.
And nobody was able to do anything other than the passengers. It made us feel like, why are we the ones who have to be the ones who have to stop all this from happening?
Right. Well, we wish you well.
Thank you.
Keep us in the loop on what's going on with this lawsuit. We appreciate it.
No comment right now on pending litigation from JetBlue. That's what they said. And Clayton Osmond, by the way, has charges pending against him. He's still in Texas. They're evaluating him, I think,
psychologically
right now still.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Michael and Bedziner and Steve Epstein. Appreciate it.
Good day.
Yeah.